Steel wool sits in your kitchen right now, probably tucked away in a drawer or under the sink, ready to scrub away at a stubborn pot. But have you ever stopped to think about where it comes from or what happens to it after you toss it out? This unassuming little tool has a hidden story, one that stretches from mines deep in the earth to rusting scraps in landfills, with a surprising environmental footprint along the way. Today, we dive into that story on Objectified, and trust me, it will change how you look at that wiry bundle forever. Hey everyone, welcome back to Objectified, the channel where everyday stuff gets the spotlight it deserves. I am your host, and today we are tackling something you might not give much thought to: steel wool. You know, that scratchy metallic pad you grab when the dishes fight back. It is a simple object, sure, but its journey from raw materials to your sink and beyond carries some hefty environmental baggage. In this video, we will explore how steel wool came to be, how it has evolved, why it matters culturally, and a few wild facts that might just blow your mind. Plus, we will unpack its impact on the planet and what that means for us. So grab a seat, maybe a snack, and let us get started. Steel wool starts with steel, and steel starts with iron ore. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, miners extract this raw material, huge chunks of rock that hold the key to so many things we use every day. The process begins in places like Australia, Brazil, or China, where massive machines dig into the ground, pulling out tons of ore. That ore then heads to a smelter, where it gets blasted with heat-sink temperatures over 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit to turn it into molten iron. From there, carbon gets mixed in, and after some serious refining, we end up with steel. But here is where steel wool gets interesting. Manufacturers take that steel and draw it out into super thin wires, sometimes finer than a human hair. Those wires get bundled together, twisted, and cut into the pads we know today. This idea traces back to the early 20th century. Legend has it, a guy named George J. Martin filed a patent in 1915 for a machine that could mass-produce steel wool. Before that, people scrubbed with sand, ashes, or even horsehair. Steel wool was a game-changer, a tough, reusable tool that made cleaning easier. But pulling all that iron from the ground and turning it into something we use once or twice, that comes with a cost. Fast forward from those early days, and steel wool has not stayed static. Companies figured out how to tweak it for different jobs. You have got fine-grade steel wool for polishing wood or glass, coarse stuff for stripping paint, even soap-infused pads for extra grease-fighting power. The production process has gotten slicker too. Modern factories use electric furnaces instead of coal-fired ones, cutting down on some emissions. Recycling plays a role now. Scrap steel from old cars or buildings often gets melted down and reborn as steel wool. Innovation has not stopped there. Some brands experiment with biodegradable packaging or try to source steel from less destructive mining operations. Others market stainless steel wool, which resists rust and lasts longer. But here is the catch. Even with these upgrades, the core process, mining, smelting, shaping, still leans hard on energy and resources. Steel production alone accounts for about 7% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the World Steel Association. So, while steel wool has evolved into a more versatile tool, its environmental shadow has not shrunk as much as you might hope. Steel wool is not just a practical thing. It has wormed its way into our lives in some unexpected ways. Think about your grandma's kitchen. Chances are, she had a stash of steel wool pads, maybe even swore by them for getting her cast iron skillet spotless. It is a symbol of elbow grease, of getting the job done no matter how messy things get. In some places, like the US or parts of Europe, it became a household name thanks to brands like Brillo or SOS pads, which hit shelves in the early 1900s and turned scrubbing into a science. Beyond the kitchen, steel wool pops up in art and crafts too. Sculptors use it to smooth metal or wood, and some photographers even burn it for cool light effects in long exposure shots. It has this quiet, gritty charm, a tool that is not flashy but gets stuff done. Yet, that reliability hides a downside. We lean on it so much that we rarely think about what it takes to make it or where it ends up when we are finished. It is a small cog in a bigger machine of convenience, and that machine keeps churning. Okay, let us lighten things up with some wild tidbits about steel wool. First off, did you know it can catch fire? Rub it with a battery, say, a 9-volt, and tiny metal strands heat up fast enough to spark. Science teachers love this trick to show how energy works. Another one? Steel wool is not just for cleaning. Back in World War II, soldiers used it to polish their boots or even filter water in a pinch. Talk about multitasking. Here is a weird one. Steel wool breaks down faster than you might think. Leave it wet and it rusts in days, turning into a crumbly mess. That is iron doing what iron does, returning to nature. But that rust does not just vanish. It can leach into soil or water, leaving traces of metal behind. And get this, producing 1 ton of steel enough for thousands of steel wool pads uses up about 1.5 tons of iron ore, half a ton of coal, and pumps out over 2 tons of carbon dioxide. That little pad in your hand? It is a tiny piece of a massive puzzle. So, where does this leave us with steel wool? It is a handy tool, no doubt, cheap, tough, and ready to tackle grime like a champ. But its environmental impact is real. From the mines tearing up the earth to the energy-guzzling factories shaping it. Steel wool carries a weight we do not see when we grab it off the shelf. Then there is the endgame. Most of it rusts away in landfills, too small and mixed with gunk to recycle easily. The numbers stack up. Steel production is a heavyweight polluter, and even small things like this add to the pile. Does that mean we ditch it? Not necessarily. Alternatives exist: plant-based scrubbers, reusable cloths, or even stainless steel versions that last longer. It is about balance. Steel wool is not the villain here. It is just a symptom of how we make and use stuff. Knowing its story gives us a chance to rethink how we clean, what we buy, and what we toss. That is the power of objects. They tell us about ourselves if we listen. If this deep dive into steel wool got you thinking, hit that like button to let me know. Subscribe to Objectified for more stories about the stuff around USI is free, and it helps the channel grow. Drop a comment too. What do you use instead of steel wool? Or maybe you've got a wild cleaning hack to share. I read every one, and I will catch you in the replies. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Objectified. Steel wool might seem small, but its story is anything but. Next time you scrub a pan, you will know what went into that wiry little pedant, what it leaves behind. Until next time, keep questioning the things around you. See you soon.